So let's take a look at some of our Alaska news for this Monday morning. There was an interesting case in Anchorage on Sunday where police had received reports of a robbery, and as they responded, they got multiple reports of vandalism, and the nearby Hilltop ski area called in to say, hey, we heard about this. Should we be concerned? And they said, yeah, you should go into lockdown. You should gather all your employees together and just sit tight, which is what they did, only to find out later that two of the people that came in, two of the customers that were out there on the slopes, were actually the suspects. It's one of those things like straight out of a movie where in these guys just basically wander into the ski area after eluding police, a little bit out of place. Okay, one guy's wearing sweatpants, the other guy's wearing camo, not exactly what you'd wear for a day on the slopes, right? Well, you might. I don't think I would. Point is, one of the guys even was missing a shoe. But they just came in and they asked, hey, one guy said, can we call a cab? And the manager's like, no, we're on lockdown right now. I said, oh, okay. And he just kind of sat there. The other guy came in, the guy missing a shoe, and said, I was involved in a rollover. Can I call somebody? Like, no, we're on lockdown. Okay. The two of them didn't talk to each other, but obviously out of place, so they kind of kept their eye on them. When the police came in with their guns drawn, all SWAT team ready to, kick butts and whatever, the manager's like, yeah, you're probably looking for those two over there. And they were taken into custody without any further incident. I find that amusing. I don't know why. President-elect Trump apparently is set to pick Rex Tillerson as the new Secretary of State. Who is Rex Tillerson? Well, he's been the CEO of Exxon. Think about that for just a moment. What that may mean for the future of the United States, to have a guy who has been up to his eyeballs around the world negotiating big power deals in a very lucrative way for himself and for his interests, for his company. How many years has he been CEO of Exxon? Think about it for just a minute. If you are a person who is more concerned about the power and prestige of the United States than anything else, then you really should want this guy, because he knows how to close the deal. He's been doing it with all of these people, Putin and the presidents of all these other like oil-producing countries. He's been doing this. He's been doing it for decades. I'm just saying, keep an eye on this, because you're going to see people coming out and saying, no, we don't want somebody who's up in corporations. Isn't that why Trump got elected? I don't know. Fairbanks set to swear in their new police chief at tonight's meeting. No controversy that I'm aware of with that. And there's been a new plan related to the Tongass Forest. A little bit of controversy with that, because it's going away from old growth into new growth, meaning that they are specifically looking to produce forest, not so much the big timber that you'd see like building houses or whatever, but actually just paper products. Not necessarily good news for the Tongass Forest as far as that goes. Also, sad news, it looks like they have found the wreckage of the plane that went down over the weekend. A family, a man and his two kids, as well as the pilot, all presumed dead. They've found the debris. I don't know if at this point they've actually been able to recover any bodies, but they were looking, and its weather has been hampering it. There's a new Democrat majority here in Alaska, and that means more power for Fairbanks, because you've got Kawasaki and you've got Guttenberg rising to positions of influence. Again, if you're interested in political power, that's a good thing. House fire in Eagle River completely engulfed because there were no fire hydrants nearby. More arrests in the Grunwald murder. The 16-year-old kid that was found murdered in the Palmer area. Actually, his car was found burned out in Wasilla. His body was found elsewhere. The murder itself, apparently right there in the Palmer area, it has shattered the community. One teenager was in custody, a 16-year-old. Now two other 16-year-olds, an 18-year-old and a 19-year-old, also charged in his murder. Troopers have identified the troopers that were involved in that shooting. They shot somebody who drove his car at other troopers. A man from Port Graham that they'd been looking for because he was reported overdue. Well, they found him hiding out. Apparently, he was violating the conditions of his release, and so he just didn't really want to be found, but they found him anyway. The Palmer Slaughterhouse has finally been sold for a lot less than the asking price, the official, the assessment, $410,000. That's what the state was planning on selling it for. One guy's like, I'll give you $300,000 for it and I'll pay you now. And so they said, okay, we're on it. Bed tax grants in North Pole. A line around the block of people saying, I'll take some of that taxpayer money. They divvied it up. You can read about it, webster11.com. The Fairbanks North Star Borough School Board is going to be discussing a new lawsuit that's been filed or will be filed here shortly by one of the former victims of the tutor that apparently the district knew there was a complaint against him but did not remove him from contact with children. The first pot shop in Anchorage has finally opened. All around the state, other shops have been opening. This one, they were behind the power curve because they had given away some free samples, and City of Anchorage yanked their license and only gave it back to them, and they finally opened, but they didn't actually have any pot to sell, so they were selling clone plants. Always fun when you're dealing with selling pot legally here in Alaska. Palmer Company has gotten a huge military contract, and they're going to be doing like exclusive stuff here for Eielson and for Clear. And a new travel guide has been produced for Fairbanks. It looks like it's a very glossy, pretty, makes Fairbanks look very attractive to people, which, of course, since tourism is basically the only non-government economy that we have going on right now, people are really excited about that. And lastly, if you're interested in getting a big game animal like a bison or some of the other animals that you have to enter into the drawing permit, the deadline is coming up this week. Don't forget, there are some changes to it. Check it out online at adfg.alaska.gov. That's our Alaska News. Our commentary today is going to focus on what the Bureau did last Thursday when they opened up Pandora's box to allow for anonymous complaints to be officially received. In other words, you don't have to have any standing. You don't have to have any interest. It doesn't have to be a neighbor. If you just see somebody violating any portion of Bureau Code, you are welcome to call and report it. We'll talk about that in our commentary. If you'd like what I'm doing, please consider becoming a supporter, a subscriber, a Patreon patron. All of those links are at my website, radiofreespeech.com, and tell all your friends. Thanks.